Even better.
Did
you see on next door the municipal pickleball tournament over by the?
No.
Who the hell would play in a pickleball? What pickleball?
What was it?
For
What?
God's sake?
Oh, we're at Hub Park. Yeah, I guess they were blocking the traffic in front of the firehouse, so people, I didn't even know there was pickleball.
Well,
A little bit interested in that.
I sent a letter to everybody living around there. You just see parking on the street, which you may not have seen before because there's a tournament there for that day, so they're aware of that. I don't know, but anyways, I was there, I was playing, I didn't see any problems.
You caused the problem.
Were you parked in front of the
My
fire
car was the
station?
one that burned up over the edge, because I was in the lot. So they said they were blocking it.
I'll send you the.
Yeah. So I didn't see, I thought things went well.
Did you win?
No.
Sorry.
Could have.
I just wanted to know because I thought maybe I was gonna like win some money out.
I was playing with my son Michael. He was very good. He's very good. But he lost to, yeah, something like that. Although, next door, this is the complaint department. They don't call me, they just go that next door.
Yeah, occasionally go through.
Yeah, but yeah, let me know.
Whenever you are, sir. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Tuesday, July 18th. It is 3:03 p.m. I'd like to call Rules Administration and Procedures Committee to order. Madam Clerk, will you please take a roll?
Chairperson Ron Mormon,
Here.
Vice Chair Emmanuel Yamas.
Here.
Alderman Edward Bug.
Here.
Alderman Carl Franco.
Here.
Alderwoman Patricia Smith. Here.
Okay, first item is approval of the minutes, 23-0456. Approval of the minutes from Rules Administration and Procedures Committee from June 6, 2023. Motion by Alderman Smith, second by Alderman Franco. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 5-0. Madam Clerk, has anybody signed up for public comment?
No, there is not.
First item on the agenda, 23-0237, a resolution approving the appointment of Bhimi Shukla and Joyati Sharata to the Indian American Community Outreach Advisory Board.
Good afternoon, RAP Committee. Alex Voigt with the Mayor's Office. We do have, I note the resolution says one appointment, but obviously these are two appointments for new candidates for the Indian American Community Outreach Advisory Board. One is a First Ward resident and the other candidate is a 10th Ward resident. And this will leave us with, if these are approved, this will leave us with two remaining vacancies on this board.
That's great. Any questions, comments from committee?
I have a question.
Alderman Franco?
So the second one, I'm not sure, Giada, did we tell her to put very little in her bio because it's like the bare minimum? Did you see that?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty scary.
I noticed that too.
So I will say everyone, depending on individuals' professional circumstances or, where they are in their career, it varies. Sometimes we'll get a full resume, sometimes we receive a brief bio. But there was also an application attached for this candidate. We can certainly ask for more, but it's not uncommon for us to receive a brief summary.
Well, that's very brief. And I'm not, believe me, I'm not chastising anything, but when you leave out the H in helping and spell families wrong, I'm a little concerned that there's a little bit more that maybe we're missing there. But you guys went through and vetted her and everything's good?
These candidates were interviewed by the mayor.
Okay.
And these were individuals, I believe, that also had a supporting nomination from Alderwoman Bade.
Okay. All right. I was just kind of curious about that. Thank you. Alderman Yamas.
Do we require resumes for any of these appointments?
It's not a requirement. What we typically request is either a resume or a bio, but we do have individuals that have not worked for many, many years. We have individuals that may have spent their entire career at one company and didn't have a resume. So what we generally ask for is one or the other. And as I said, they vary in terms of length and the information included. We can certainly follow up with this individual and ask for more expansive information. That's no problem. It's not that we do that too. It really, it varies based on the individual's background.
Okay, I was just asking because not specifically for this appointment, but for others I've seen, sometimes we have resumes, sometimes we don't.
Yep, we ask for one or the other.
Okay, great, thank
Yep.
you.
And honestly, sometimes people are intimidated to submit a bio, so we'll ask for a letter of intent. Really just something that indicates their interest and commitment to serving the community in this capacity.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
And I just want to clarify, clarify that, I mean, these particular folks are interviewed by the mayor. They're either interviewed by you or the mayor. So it's not like getting a job, but it's, if is there any background that we do verify anything or?
Typically, a background check, no.
Or any of that kind of stuff, we just take it for,
No, we do interview everyone. Sometimes they're Zoom interviews, sometimes they're in person, sometimes they're with the mayor, sometimes they're with me, but it's generally a representative of the mayor's office team and one other individual will sit down and meet with them. What we're looking for are people that are interested in serving and that will follow through on that interest by showing up to meetings, participating in events, those sorts of things.
sure, yeah.
So, in terms of the documents they provide, again, that varies, but we do meet with everyone.
Perfect. Alderman Smith?
Yes, thank you. Question, what is the number of individuals we have on this advisory board right now?
So the board seats 13, and right now we have, right now we're at 9.
And do we have a pretty decent, are we covering across the city as much as possible? I know it can't be, equal, ward, but are we doing a good job with that on this advisory?
So this one, as has been the pattern with this one, is we are heavily represented on the far east side of town. We do have one member from the 4th ward, and then we do have 3 non-residents. So what's great about these nominations is we do have someone from the 1st ward, and then, again, another far east side candidate, and then we have 2 vacancies. So in this situation, what we typically do is we'll really focus on finding individuals from other wards, but this board specifically has generally been heavily representative of the far east side of town, historically.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Second. A motion by Alderman Smith, second by Alderman Franco. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes 5-0. So next
you.
item on the agenda, 23-0545, a resolution authorizing and directing the Chief of Staff of the Office of the Alderman to encumber and expand funds allocated to Ward 7 for purposes related to the Martin Luther King Jr. Fun Fest and Back to School Bash. Thank you. State your name and.
I'm happy to answer any questions. This is to give me the authority to sign off on checks specifically for Alderwoman Hart Burns's annual back-to-school event.
Oh, we should really give him a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think so.
I know. Could you please tell me your background? So it's a joke, it's not a question, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, maybe identify yourself for the record, that would be nice.
Sure, Rich Jacobs, Chief of Staff, Office of Alderman.
Perfect. Any
So
questions,
moved.
comments? Motion by Alderman Smith. Second by Alderman Franco. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
We were way too easy on him.
Yeah. Next item on the agenda, 23-0552, a discussion regarding section 2-125, standing and special committee operating procedures regarding discretion to cancel meetings. So, any discussion? Anybody have any?
I have some questions.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I asked for this to be placed on more of a general discussion, not just canceling meetings. This was really bore out of last year when we were coming up, and it's this time of year right now, coming up about to enter into setting up our budget meetings. And I think overall, we need to set some procedures so the committee members and the chair, that we have a procedure set and we're not kind of guessing on what we should do. So last year, in the last couple years, the schedule for the budget meetings came out as a final schedule. and it came to the finance committee members in that format. When we got that, Sherman, myself, and Chiquita looked at some dates that we were not available. And Sherman turned to me and said, how are they going to have a budget meeting without the finance committee being there? I said, I don't know. So, like I said, it's because, of course, we do change chairmen, and chairmen do things in different ways. So, our former finance chairman did things a little bit differently. And I believe even Alderman Franco at some point during that discussion said that that was pretty much provided for him. Special meetings and changing times of meetings and those things should be decided by the committees. Of course, we need input from the mayor's office and as they coordinate with the different departments, and not specifically for budget, that's just one aspect. But definitely all of the committee members, and I'm just speaking here on finance, but it applies to all, need to be a part of the planning process. And so, because we're coming up to this time of year, and I imagine we're going to get a schedule here month and a half, we wanted to start to have this discussion on that portion, and then a couple other things. Like I said, when we change the times of meetings, again, that should be all of the members of a committee should be consulted. And so we just need some policies, some processes on the book, so everybody's on the same page. The chairman, the members, and the mayor's office can make great decisions. So that's kind of where we started with this.
Alderman Yellis?
Did you say that? I didn't really quite understand. You said a lot of things, but I didn't hear specifically what you wanted to address right now. Because you're talking about finance committee, but I don't see anything about finance committee or kind of
No,
the
this is
context
for
you're giving.
all committees.
Right.
So that was
This is about canceling
aspect of-
meetings when all we have on the agenda are the minutes of a prior meeting, which is what happened here in RAP while you were chairman a couple months ago. And you just mentioned that you want input
No.
from all the committee members.
I did not put that attachment, I believe Ms. Lang put that in. It really,
But that's
Kinda
what's on the
didn't.
agenda now. And what you just mentioned was that you would like
What-
input from all the committee members before deciding to cancel a meeting, but the opposite was true months ago when you were chairman here. There was a meeting where we had nothing on the agenda besides the meeting minutes of the prior meeting, which the rest of I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. The rest of the committee members had wanted to cancel, and you insisted on us meeting. So that contradicts what you're saying now. So should it be up to purely the discretion of the chairman, or should all of the committee members have input in that?
okay, well, let me correct you. No one, in that specific instance, no one came to me as a chair and said they wanted the meeting canceled.
You were the chair.
Correct.
So how could any other, there's only one chairman of a meeting.
I said, no committee member came to me and said they wanted the meeting canceled.
You didn't hear that from
By the
staff?
48 hours. No, we discussed a number of things, the staff, at the 48-hour point. There's a 48-hour point where things have to be noticed, publicized, and that, are we going to have things on the agenda, are we not? So those discussions happened. But no committee members came to me and said, we don't want to have a meeting.
So staff did
So-
notify you that the rest of us did not want to have the meeting?
No. They did not. But again, no committee member came up to me and said, we would rather not have this meeting.
Well, no, but that's part of what staff does, is reach out to all the committee members and to ask us whether or not we still want to have this meeting. But if you're saying that you were never advised that the rest of the committee members did not want to have that meeting that day, that were okay with canceling, then that's a different story, if that's what you're saying. That was not my understanding.
Can I do a
I'd like to
little point of order here? We've got two different things going on. We've got this item agenda that is talking about cancellation of meetings, which is what Alderman Yamas is talking about. And then we've got what Alderman Bug is talking about is scheduling finance meetings, which has nothing to do with cancellation of meetings. So are we going to talk about the cancellation of meetings? Because it says very specifically in there what the procedure is. My question is, are we going to continue with the loose language that we have in this operation, saying that the committee member, or committee chairperson has a discretion to cancel regular meetings of the committee to the extent authorized by the Open Meetings Act? I believe the discussion that we should be having today is, as a committee person, should we be bringing an entire committee together when the only thing that we're going to sit down with and talk about is approving the minutes from the last meeting? And I believe it's a misuse of taxpayers' money to be doing that. And I think that if we're talking about tightening things up and being good stewards of our dollars, I don't believe that the discretion of the chairperson should be taken out of there, in that if there's nothing on the agenda, then there's nothing to meet about. That's what I thought this meeting was about today. So I thought this item was about today. So I feel like we're getting a little off base of what's
And
going
I
on.
appreciate you kind of short up there. So right now, it's at the discretion, how we read that ordinance, at the discretion of the chairman to do it. And again, to go back to your point, Alderman Yamas, I recall being asked, do you see a reason to meet for that particular rep? I said no if it was just the minutes. So, I didn't know if the procedure was to go to the chairman at the time and say, hey, I don't think we should meet, or I would have done so. But I thought that, again, that was done, as you said, by the discretion of the staff. But I think if is it clearly, or is it gray? I mean, to me, it's pretty clear that it's at the discretion of the chairman whether we cancel or not, correct? Or, is there any gray area there? Does anybody see anything, or?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. It is within the discretion of the chair. And the
Yeah.
reason that it's within the discretion of the chair is because it would be very difficult for the committee to deliberate as a body on whether to cancel a meeting, particularly if there was an issue of quorum, and given the Open Meetings Act concern. So while it's perfectly appropriate for the chair of the committee to take in consideration of, if you talk to an individual alderman or multiple individual aldermen in individual conversations, that's one thing, and you can use that to inform your decision. But to put the responsibility of the determination of canceling a meeting in the collective body would require that collective body to formally, in an open meeting, make that determination. So there isn't really a good way to cabin the entire committee into making that decision unless you vested essentially in the chairman.
Meeting to cancel a meeting, so.
Exactly.
Pretty much, yeah, so. So in this particular case, Alderman Bug, if we need another item to discuss the scheduling of finance, is that, something
Well,
that
can I-
would start here, or?
Can I
what's that
make
go
a
with?
couple comments?
Oh, sure, Alderman.
All right, what I would like to see with this issue, because I think we're not fiscally responsible, we haven't been in the past, it's very upsetting to me that we would come here for a meeting to approve minutes and cost the taxpayers 5 people's pay to come to a meeting where they're in and out in 1 minute. I think that's inappropriate. I would love to see language, and if you just have minutes, that meeting is canceled. Just save the taxpayers money. I would like to see that. I don't know if it's a bridge too far, but that's what I would like to see. And maybe put some wording in there that if it's 2 in a row, you meet the second time around because you have to have a meeting at some point in time. I just think we've been irresponsible for that, but leaving it up to discretion for coming in for 1 minute and making all that money. That's number one, if we could do that. Number two, with the finance. So to go back to what you had encountered, so I just want everybody to know, so what I had done is I kind of followed the formula as far as when we typically meet year to year with, the historical perspective. So I would let the CFO say, this is when we would like to meet, does this work for you, Alderman? And I would say, okay, is this when we kind of met same time period? If it's in that range, we would work out, say yes. And then when we would inform in advance the committee members, if there was a problem, we would be amenable to change it if we could. But I think the problem is when you have staff coming in at different times and minute coming in is that if we try to work with everybody's schedule, that might be more difficult than say, this is what we got. But if there's a problem, let us know, and then we could, I think there'd be less change that way. So I think that's kind of how I had done it in the past. You know, I certainly want to accommodate everybody, but I think that's the lesser of all evils. Go and just say, all right, this is what we've always done, kind of, this is about the time period. Let's go there. If somebody has a problem, let me know, and maybe we can change. And we did change a couple times last year, or in the last 2 years. So I don't know that that's a problem necessarily, because we can work through it. So I know what you're talking about, but I think it's kind of works. But I would certainly address it again. We certainly want to make everybody there, but I don't know that the way we had done it was that much of a negative. I think we could work with it again. So that's my
Yeah,
take.
I think it just needs to be tweaked.
Right.
Anytime you're establishing committee meetings, changing committee meetings, and for the chair's reference, when I asked for this to go on, it said authority to change or cancel a committee meeting.
Right.
The word change, I guess, got removed out of the title, so.
So if we go back to what I initially said, I didn't want to go into two topics that quick. Would that be inappropriate to address potentially putting it in writing that if there's only minutes, that meeting is automatically canceled and take it out of discretion? I mean, I'll take the opinions from, my colleagues or legal. I just think we come here for 1 minute meeting. We're just doing the taxpayers a disservice. That's my point of
If
view.
I could speak, I pretty much said, that's exactly what I just said, so you've got my opinion. I said,
Right.
that's exactly what I
If we
said.
could
I don't
put that,
believe
yeah,
that, I don't think it should be the discretion of the chairperson. I believe if minutes are the only things to be discussed, there should be no meetings. And because we are not being good stewards of taxpayers' money by showing up for 1 minute, getting paid, and walking out the door.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion, and I think it's something that we all need to have some conversation over. I don't know if it's something that we want, the whole, COW to talk about, because everyone's involved in this, but I do think it's something that we need to discuss because it is something that is ongoing, and we need to shore it up.
I just wanted to add in, I'm in agreement with that, and like you mentioned earlier, maybe we could just add language. So I mean, we can just formalize this, saying the committee shall not meet if the only item on the agenda is the prior minutes, unless required to under the Open Meetings Act because of that 30-day requirement, something as simple as that. I don't know if we should, I think we should discuss this and, I guess, pass something here that would then go to Cal. I wouldn't want to be in that situation a lot like what we've done in the past, where we've gone to Cal just to get input and then come back to the committee, because no other committee functions that way, and we shouldn't be any different. If this is something that's under wrap, we should handle it here at wrap and then pass it on to Cal for everyone else's review, just like anything else.
Can I ask a legitimate question about that? And that would probably go to council. Is there a time when we could see if we didn't have a meeting because the only thing to vote on is passing the minutes? And if those minutes weren't passed, is that at all detrimental to those items as they go through COW and on up?
No, as far as the minutes not being approved as being a bar on the COW's ability to consider what occurred and then ultimately the city council, no. And in most cases, you wouldn't have the committee minutes approved by the time they get to COW. I think RAP is the only committee that is in a rotation where you do have the time to approve the meetings before that recommendation gets to COW, and then even then it only gets to COW a few hours later. So that doesn't present a problem. There's a couple different ways that the committee can deal with this. One, of course, is a resolution. Two would be an ordinance. The other way of doing it is having a conversation at COW and making an expectation amongst the committee chairs as well as the members of the committees that if there is a situation that presents itself where the only item of business is the approval of minutes, it's an expectation and it's the routine practice that the meeting's not canceled. There may be times that cancellation may not be desirable if there's been a chain of committees that have been canceled and there is an older set of minutes that may need to be approved. I think that's Alderman Yamas's exception right there. There may be a reason to do that. It doesn't necessarily need to be codified if it becomes the expectation and the policy of the individual chairs, three of whom are sitting around the table right now.
Yeah, Chairman.
Yeah, sure.
So specifically, I think they have 30 days to move the minutes forward and get them ratified in some manner. I believe that's what it used to be. So yeah, that's not a problem. But I agree that a hard, fast rule may not work all the time in the situation that we had for that RAP meeting. Of course, we were in the middle of the whole food truck
That had already passed.
Discussion.
City council.
Yeah.
That finalized the week prior at city council.
Yeah, and they were coming back and asking for clarifications, other things. Ms. Voigt and her staff had a meeting with them, I believe, maybe a few days leading up to the RAP meeting. So I don't know if it was the latter part of that week before, but your staff had done some clarification for them. A lot of them still had questions and comments, and that's what the discussion was between myself and the mayor's office and the representatives from the food trucks. And we thought that a number of them were going to come to that meeting. And then I think, Ms. Voigt, correct me, I think you sent something else out, more clarification, I believe the day before RAP. And I think more questions were answered, and then they did not feel the need to come for public comment.
I did not receive any correspondence from food trucks stating that they were planning to attend. As we discussed at the city council meeting, we intended to continue our communication with them and have meetings, and invitations were sent out, but to the best of my knowledge, we did not receive any questions following the passage of the ordinance. We sent out communication inviting them to a meeting to discuss further.
Right.
So there.
And that meeting already happened, right?
No, we
Okay.
had a
Maybe it was
meeting.
going to happen, okay.
We had a meeting, we committed to the council that we would have meetings with the food truck operators to discuss any questions, concerns, walk them through the variance process, but we did not receive communication following the city council meeting in terms of questions.
So,
Any communication from that point came from us to them.
so can we just decide, I mean, I want to rehash the past, let's just kind of move forward here. So should we rewrite an ordinance? I guess what's the next step here is to have legal put something together, or leave it as is, or what do you need from us?
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think that really is up to the committee in terms of what sort of direction. I mean, to Alderman Bugg's point, there are circumstances where there may be a desire for flexibility in certain limited circumstances. Certainly, any meeting does offer the opportunity for public comment, although ordinarily people would not come to comment at a meeting where there was nothing else on the agenda. The Open Meetings Act also does not, at a regular meeting, preclude deliberations upon items which are not set forth on the agenda so long as no final action is taken. So there may be a situation where the committee is scheduled to meet, an item didn't make the agenda, but there's some value in at least making the presentation to the committee at that point ahead of COW. Now, I think those are all very rare situations, and if you had something like that manifest itself more than once a year across all 5 standing committees, it would be rare. And if you want to allow for something like that, then I think leaving it to the chair's discretion, informed by the discussion that was happening here as well as what may happen at COW, may be enough. If the RAP and then ultimately the city council would prefer to further limit the discretion and provide that there's guidance that if there's nothing on the agenda and no other matters to discuss, even if they wouldn't be on the agenda ordinarily, then that would be something that would require or strongly counsel the chair's decision. So it really is, you have to kind of look at how you want to address the situation. I think there's a feeling that if it really is legitimately a meeting just to approve minutes, you don't do it. If there's some other value to having the gathering, the meeting, then that may be a time where that discretion comes into effect.
Yeah, Alderman Franco.
So based on that, let me make a suggestion then, because obviously if we make a recommendation and we don't feel that it's working out, we can go to the next step. So I would think maybe we go slow with this and say, if our RAP committee feels that we should basically leave the discretion to the chairman, basically, but we would like you to cancel meetings when there is just minutes. This is what we think we should do. You make it that rare case. We're going to leave it up to you, but we feel you should. And see how that works. And maybe we can kind of work that for a while. And if everybody's abiding by it, we're good to go, for that one. And maybe we just have that rare occasion. If we feel that there's meetings that are still being called for no reason, then maybe we reconvene and say, okay, maybe we need to legislate it, but maybe we give them a chance, say what our feelings are, and maybe just kind of go that way. Hopefully, we get the result that we're looking for.
Yeah, I would agree with, as is, leaving it at the chairman's discretion, I think would be best right now, but I think that we should, if at some point we decide to go in a different direction, I think Alderman Yamas is correct. It should come from here, get the language that we want before we proceed to COW. I don't think an open discussion with COW it's skipping the process, in my opinion, so.
So with this going to COW, I guess what we'd want to do today is the RAP committee good with saying, we recommend that these things are canceled as a group? The RAP committee thinks that this is the way we should go, so we go to the united front. So when everybody at COW says, this is what the RAP committee suggests we do, we concur, that type of thing. I just want to make sure we're all on board with that before we go forward, so we're, united somewhat.
So then,
Well,
I'm sorry, so this right here, we can either is this going to proceed to COW since it's on the agenda, or is it going to be removed, or?
It's up to the committee's decision.
Just great, okay. Okay, I'm sorry, Alderman Smith was first. Okay. Yeah.
So I don't believe we should take it off of the COW agenda. I believe that we should present it in, how we have discussion. But I agree with what Alderman Franco is saying. I think we should give the expectation, instead of making it a policy or an ordinance, or, we could go policy, then ordinance. But I believe if we verbally voice, this is the conversation that occurred at RAP, and moving forward, this is our expectation. And if unless there's some special exceptions, but I think we need to say that. I think it needs to be said in front of the entire council so that we know we're all on the same page. I do realize there are 3 chairs sitting in the room, but there's 2 others as well. So I think the entire body needs to hear it as well. My opinion.
So, okay, Alderman Miller.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I brought this here first for discussion. There's other sections in section 2125 that the changing of the meetings. So really, if we're going to, of course, write some language, we need to do that before we send it to COW. And like I said,
That's your opinion.
Pardon?
It's your opinion.
Yeah, so, do we vote, or would
Well,
we
if we're
just?
going to put something codified, it has to be in writing. You can't
We're
codify
both
verbal.
saying not to codify it.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
If there was a discrete policy or something to be reflected coming out of this that you would like the COW to adopt, as opposed to them just being aware of the sense of this committee, which I imagine many of your colleagues in COW would agree with. If there was something beyond just that sense that we want to reduce it, right?
Right.
Alderman Young?
Just since I think you're trying to get a consensus here, so I want to
Yes.
make clear that I'm not in agreement with going with more of the informal process. If we communicate this to the rest of the council and let them know that the RAP committee prefers that you not me, it doesn't have any teeth. They can just tell us go fly a kite. It doesn't make a difference. So if we're going to do something, we need to do something, is my view. If you guys aren't ready to move forward at this time, that's fine.
I tend to agree with that, is let's either put something in writing or keep it as is my opinion is, because you're absolutely right, is don't do this, but there's no teeth to it or consequence or anything like that. I think we should come up with some sort of language and say, this is how it is, and if they have opinions, then they can do that. So, because to me, it accomplishes nothing talking about it, because if I could still have a meeting if I want to, and all you can do is say you shouldn't have, then what's the point?
Well, and I'm going to say one more thing, and then
Yeah.
I won't give my opinion on this again. I don't have a problem with codifying it, but there still needs to be the exception that we talked about that could possibly happen, that there may need to be a meeting because of some reason that, leading up to it. So however we write that, we got to keep that in mind.
I would agree 100%.
You know,
but
so we
you know,
can't just say
can't
across
write
the
a law and
board,
break the law or
you
something
know,
like
I don't
that,
have a
so
problem with no meetings should occur. I said it when we started this whole conversation, if minutes only are being approved.
Yeah.
And I stand by that. And if we have to codify it, so be it, but I think we need to codify it with some understanding that there could be exceptions.
And that, you know, what I've been thinking about during the meeting is, what do you do in a situation where there is no business put forth by staff? There's the minutes, but the chair, for whatever reason, really wants to meet and asks for the inclusion of a discussion item on a particular topic on the agenda. You know, and that could be, you know, I feel that there's no business that we need to conduct, but I think it's good practice for us to discuss matters which are within the committee's jurisdiction. We have an hour where we can sit and do nothing but that. I want to take advantage of that time. Let's have a discussion to talk about a particular topic, whether it be something like we're doing right now, or whether it be on something that falls within INT's jurisdiction or something along those lines, and that becomes a potential loophole.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that. I mean, I just think we have to look at this common sense wise too, you know, and I think if we just codify it and change it if we have to, or just say it doesn't work, you know, and come up with something else. But I would prefer to, if we're going to move forward with it, that we have something to present versus, you know, a policy of some sort. To me, I'd rather have something in writing and it's this, and that's that, so.
So going back to what you said, Rick, so if we were to codify and we would put down no meeting shall, not have a meeting held, if it's just for the minutes of the previous meeting, unless, and then you put the exception in there for stuff like that, then the discretion would go to the committee chair that says, we're going to cancel. However, I think I changed my mind because of this. So as opposed to going one way backwards, go forward a little bit. So we could put that in there and give that and write that as exception in there, and then we can go forward. That would be a potential.
Okay. But wouldn't that be the exact, I mean, right now it's still at my discretion in this particular case to do that. So if I say, well, we need to approve these minutes, so I think we're just back to square one in the sense that if my discretion is still my discretion, then.
Or approve the minutes and then talk about changes you'd like to see in the law department.
Yeah.
Or something along those
Yeah.
lines. I mean, you can still get to, if the chair is determined to have a meeting, it's going to be very difficult to codify preventing the chair from doing it.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Just to clarify, what we're, I guess, exploring now would be us codifying this requirement that we not meet unless there's something more than just the minutes. But what you're saying, if we want something that's for information only or for discussion, to get the discussion going on some other change to the ordinance in the future, that discussion that would be placed on the agenda, right? It'd still be an agenda item, so it's,
Okay.
we would be meeting for something other than the meeting minutes.
Exactly. So there would be something technically on the agenda, but I think my point was more of if it's time for the agenda to be finalized, and the only thing that's on the agenda to be finalized is approval of the minutes, what if you had a situation where the meeting would ordinarily be canceled, but the chair says, let's discuss A, B, or C, I'd like that on as a discussion item, and then that becomes the whole purpose of the meeting.
But that would be on the agenda then, correct?
It would be on the agenda. So, I mean, I don't see a situation where a chair would say, let's go ahead and meet, and the only thing literally on the agenda would be, I think, would be that particular.
I mean, that makes sense to me, you know, again, if it's on the agenda, anything but the minutes and it's on the agenda, then I guess, then,
So basically, we're saying that the chairman has to, and I'm so sorry, I didn't ask to speak.
oh, it's. what is
You want your mic?
We're basically saying that the chairman has to provide reason why they went ahead and went forward with the meeting, instead of just,
I mean, that's my understanding, is that.
I agree with that. I mean, if the chairman decides to have to go forward, I believe when they're reading it into COW, they should say, chairman chose to go forward because of X, Y, Z. There needs to be,
Yeah,
should
that
be a
makes-
reason.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. So then I guess the next step is like, I know, do we vote? Do we, what, you know, how do we decide what to do with this, or is that?
If that's the consensus of the committee, we can prepare legislation for next Tuesday as to whether or not we want to forward that to the RAP committee next Tuesday, which is also National Night Out, so I know it's a tighter schedule than normal. That's really up to the committee. But if it's the consensus to have some legislation drafted, we could put something together, circulate it amongst the committee, and then have something for you to take action on in 2 weeks.
Can I would suggest that they write something up, let us dissect it at a wrap meeting, and then if we're good with it, we'll
Yeah.
present it to COW, and it's cleaner. You know, it's.
I would
it's
agree with
writing
that.
Technically, I think that would probably be.
There's no hurry on this, so I
Yeah.
don't see
No
why not.
suggestion.
Yeah. So would that work, then we can just have the next rap meeting, have something on there, and we can,
And I think we understand the direction, so.
yeah, perfect. So-
Yeah, I'll make a motion to hold this matter here, changing the title, because it wasn't supposed to be regarding discretion, just regarding discretion to cancel meetings. So it'll be,
Alderman.
change it to a discussion regarding section 2-125 standing discretion.
Alderman, I think what we would do is we would just bring the proposed ordinance as a new agenda item, so I wouldn't even, no action is necessary on this.
So, no action then, so no. Okay. Perfect. Any other questions, comments regarding that?
Motion to adjourn.
So, no reason for a closed session, so motion by Alderman Smith, second by Alderman Yamas to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourns at 3:42 PM. Thanks, everyone.